Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Editor Works here. So I'll be going through Admiralty Secondary School MYE examination 2016 in this video, and I'll be going through some of the questions, and most of them are related within the syllabus. So when I'm going through these questions, I want you to ponder and basically take out a pen and pencil and write out all your answers. Okay, you can pause the video whenever you want and then check against the answers which I will show in the video right after I go through the questions. Okay, so for all the parents who are out there like kind of worry about your children because the secondary schools have removed MYE examinations from the curricula. So those who are worried, you can take this as an opportunity to test what they have learned in the first half of the year, and hopefully catch up on what they have not learned during the June holidays. So this video would best be watched just before June holiday. So without further ado, let's go right into the video. Okay, so first of all, the first question here for math is expand and simplify 3a minus 4 minus a plus 6. So take a few seconds to internalize this question. If you have any questions, just drop in the comments too. Okay, so the first thing first we want to do is the rainbow method. So what we do, follow the cursor. Okay, 3a times negative a. So I'll draw one rainbow over here. So in other words, I want to write 3a times negative a. So this will give me negative 3a squared. Then after that, you're gonna write 3a times 6, which is 18a, and then minus 4 times minus a, which is gonna be 4a. So you add them up together, that's gonna give you 22a, and then minus 4 times 6 minus negative times positive will give you a negative number, right? So in other words, this will give you negative 24. So in other words, the answer here would be this. Okay, take a look. Okay, the next question over here is simplify this. Okay, so we take a look at this number is just a term by itself, but this has a square outside. Take note of where the square is. The square here is at z, so means that the square only applies to z, it doesn't apply to 2. The square here applies to everything within the bracket. So in other words, negative 2 square and z square. Okay, negative 2 square, anything that's negative and we square it will give you a positive, because negative times negative will be positive. So just remember, two lines, right, means a plus sign lah. Okay, so negative 2 times negative 2 will give you 4, right? And then z squared is just gonna be z squared. Okay, so after that we multiply by another z squared, so it's gonna give you z to the power of 4. Okay, and then here negative 2 times negative 2 will give you 4. 4 times negative 2 will give you negative 8. So the answer here will be negative 8z4. Okay, so let's move on. Solve each of the following equations, show your answer, show your working clearly. So to solve this, okay, this is our zero product rule. Okay, make everything on the left hand side, the right hand side keep it at 0. Okay, that's the first rule that you must understand. Okay, over here we keep everything on the left hand side, so x plus 3 can be 0, or okay, keyword is or, you cannot put and. Okay, keyword is or 2x minus 4 equals to 0. So when x plus 3 is equals to 0, x will be equals to negative 3, and when 2x minus 4 is equals to 0, x will be equals to 2. Okay, so that will be the answer for part A. Okay, over here, keyword is or. If you write and, the answer will be wrong, because it can be this or this, but it cannot. And suggests that this and this occurs together. But if you take a look at the quadratic graph, this and this occurs independently, means they cannot occur at the same time. There are two different intersections with the x-axis, so it's or. Okay, or will be the appropriate word to use. Okay, so let's take a look at B now. Okay, x plus 8 squared equals to 25. Whenever you have a square, you want to square root it. Okay, there's a much complicated way to do this question, which is to make everything on the left hand side. But in this case, I'll be teaching you the easier method. Let's take a look at if you need some time, take a pause of the video and then try to answer the question. But I'll be taking a look at the answer. The answer takes the easier route, which is to square root both sides. So in other words, over here, what you see over here is you square root both sides, but when you square root, you have to put a plus minus. Why? Because we have learned that when you square something, negative times negative will give you positive, positive times positive will give you positive. So in other words, 25 here is positive, right? So we don't know what it originates from. It can originate from a positive number or a negative number, right? So in other words, we have to put plus minus. So plus minus suggests is x plus 8 is 5, or x plus 8 is negative 5. Okay, so the keyword is all. Okay, they put all here, but I would recommend for you to put all in all the 3 different lines. Okay, so in the end you get this should be your final answer. Okay, this is a 2-mark question, so they will award 1 mark for your method, which is the moment they see you put plus minus and square root, this will be 1 mark, and then here the solving part and finding the answer will be the 2nd mark. So this is your 2nd mark. Okay, this is 3 marks. So that, in other words, this part here is the plus minus one is 1 mark. So as long as you see this equation, they will 1 mark. They'll give you 1 mark. So please do not skip any steps. Okay, some people who are more advanced may feel inclined to skip steps, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. First of all, you will create careless mistakes. Second of all, you will lose method marks. Okay, so then okay, we are back over here. So remember just to put a, so one answer mark will be this. I just want to see this. Okay, when you're giving the answer, please remember to put all. Okay. Next question. Okay. Simplify the following answer. So what happened is that you see there's a cross multiplication, right? So there's a cross, so means that we can cross out. Okay. So 20 and 5. How do we, can we cross anything out here? 20 and 5 can, right? We can make it into 4 and 1. Okay, because both can be divided by 5. Okay, 9 and 3 both can be divided by 3. So this one becomes 1 and this one becomes 3. Okay, q cube and q squared can cancel. So q squared cancel everything out, because then this one will become q. Okay, because cube and square you can cancel out the bigger one, which is 3. Okay, and then p is just p lah. Okay, s you cannot really cancel. So when you combine them together, this will give you this. Okay, here you see how we get this. Okay, now we're back over here at divide. Okay, when you're dividing something, you divide, you have to flip this around. Okay, flip it around. Okay, and we also learn the difference of squares. Okay, remember that one? A minus b times a plus b will give you what? A squared minus b squared, right? So this one you can factorize it. So this one becomes x plus y equals, or times x minus y. So x minus y you can divide. So let's take a look at the answer. Okay, over here we take a look at, we flip it around. Okay, if you flip it around, this is one method mark. Okay, so over here you can say you can factorize this. Factorize become like that. Factorize already. X minus y here, you can cancel. You see, cancel, because they are bounded by brackets. As long as they are bounded by brackets, they can cancel this. So x minus y cancel, x minus 1 cancel. 20 and 5 cancel. So this one becomes 4 and this one becomes 1. Eventually becomes like that. Okay, and if everything at the bottom becomes 1, which means when you cancel this and cancel this one becomes 1, and when you cancel this and you cancel this one becomes 4, this one becomes 1. If bottom here becomes 1, right, essentially is just nothing lah. So you just write it as like that. Essentially, by convention, this also means divided by 1. When divide by anything divided by 1, it will give you the same answer. Okay, let's take a look at the next question. Question 4. Okay, a map is drawn to scale of 1:75000. So remember, when you're doing scaling questions, the answer must be in the same unit. So yes, this scale can be expressed as 1 cm represents n km. Find n. Okay, this scale is 1 cm represents n km. Okay, so in other words, I want you to first of all convert this. So this, assume this is 1 cm and this is 75,000 cm. Okay, so 1 cm is to 75,000 cm. Okay, 75,000 cm convert into km. How do you do it? First of all, cm you have to divide by meters, right? So you have to divide by 100 to give you meters. Then divide by another 1,000 to give you number of kilometers. Okay, let's take a look at this question. Okay, the answer will be 0.75 if you do the conversion correctly. Okay, divide by 100, then divided by 1,000. Okay, 100 is to find the meters, 1,000 is to find kilometers. Fine. The next is to find n. The distance between two towns. So I found n already. Okay, the distance between two towns on the map is 25 cm. Find the actual distance. So in other words, I want you to you see, so 25 cm means here this one times 25. Actually no, you use part A to find. Okay, so you found n already, right? 1 cm equals to how many kilometers already, right? So the actual distance will be aka what? N times 25. Okay, like that. N is this times 25, so this will give you this. Okay, next question, let's take a look. Okay, a lake has an actual area of 3.5 kilometers squared. Find the area in square centimeter of the lake on the map. First of all, I want you to go over here and find. Okay, 1 cm, write out the ratio. 1 cm is to dot dot. Okay, 0.75 squared. Okay, 1 cm squared dot dot 0.75 squared, because the original ratio, 0.75 km squared. Okay, the original ratio is 1 cm is to n km. Okay, let's take a look at original ratio. This 1 cm is 0.05 km, which is n. Okay, so now you square it, because if you're gonna find the ratio of the area, you have to square it. So you square this, so this squared. Okay, so you have to write it in km squared, because after you square the number, you have to write the units in square, right? So in other words, 1 cm on the map is equal to 0.5625 kilometers squared on the actual area. So the actual area here is 3.5 kilometers squared. So how do you find the area on the map? You use 3.5 kilometers squared divided by 0.5625. Okay? Equals to 6.22. Some may not understand why you have to do that. Just remember, just imagine for every, wait, is there any way for me to write? Okay. Just remember, for every 1 cm, okay, you will get what? 0.5 km. Okay, so when you square it, so it's gonna give you 1 cm squared. Okay, sorry. No, I'm just gonna write text. Okay, 1 cm squared. Okay, will give you dot dot. Sorry, dot dot 0.75 squared, right? So 0.75 squared is what? 0.5625 km squared. Okay, so it means for every 1 cm squared, there is 0.5625 kilometers squared. So in 3.5 kilometers squared, in other words, in 3.5 kilometers squared of area, how many 0.5625 squares are there? Okay, so how do you do that? Just use this divided by this, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just drop in the comments. I have more analogies to help you to see it. Okay, let's move on. And give your answer is 3 significant figures. So it should be a sec 1 knowledge to convert things into 3 significant figures. Okay, move on. Okay, in the diagram below it is given AB and DC is equals to 8 cm. Where's AB? AB is here, DC is here. CBD, where's CBD? CBD is 90 degrees, so they have labeled everything. Okay, but what I like to do is to check if they label everything. So in other words, check. Okay, here they put 90 degrees. Does it correspond to the question, the context? Yes, it does, right? Okay, so 65 degrees is labeled, right? BAD. Okay, CBD and ADB are congruent. Where's okay? CBD and ADB, they're congruent. Okay, yeah, they're congruent, right? What does congruent mean? Basically, it just means they are the same triangle, right? They have the same angle and they have the same length and breadth and basically the same. They're basically exactly the same. It means they can be overlapped onto each other. Okay, so find the reflex angle ADC. What's reflex? Reflex is the large angle. Okay, ADC angle ADC will be this angle. Okay, let me pull out the pen. It will be this angle. Okay, reflex angle means I want this. This will be my question mark. Okay, I want this. Okay, yes. So find ABD. Okay, so let's take a look first. Okay, since this is 65 degrees, it means that since they're congruent, right, this will be 65 degrees. So what is the reasoning you should give for this? Angles in congruent triangles are equal. Okay, angles in congruent triangles, corresponding angles in congruent triangles are equal. Then since you find this already, then you can find this angle. What is this angle? Angle sum of triangle, right? It's because 180 minus 90 minus 65, this will give you this. Okay, then ABD is equals to 90 plus whatever this angle is, right? Then to find the reflex angle over here, you take 360 minus whatever you got for this. Okay, and what's the reasoning to give for this? Adjacent angle, angles at the point. Okay, let's take a look at the answer. Angles of congruence are equal. I want to write are equal. Okay. Okay. Over here, I'll appreciate if you just write angles at a point, because this is one of the reasonings. I'm not sure why the answer key did not include that. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on. The volume of a ball 7 cm cube is directly proportional to the cube of its radius, which is r. Okay. When it's r is 7.5, v is equals to whatever pi. Okay. Find the equation connecting v and r. Give the value of k constant in terms of pi. Okay, so q is directly proportional to q. So okay, so in other words, I want you to write k first. Okay, yeah. So in other words, I want you to write v. Actually, you know what? I'll just type it out. V is equals to k times r cube. Okay, so you say v is directly proportional to the cube of its radius, so v times r cube. So when r is 7.5, so means v is equal to this. Okay, So in other words, I want to find key in the calculator, okay, 5, let me write again, 2.5 pi is also equals to k times 7.5 squared. So okay, r squared, which is 7.5 squared, will give you 56.25. So in other words, I want to find k, so I'll bring k over, okay. So in other words, k is gonna be equals to 562.5 pi divided by 56.25. So it's gonna give me 562.5 divided by this, give me 10 pi, okay, 10 pi. So k is 10 pi. So find the value of k. So in other words, I can equate the equation together by finding k. So in other words, my equation is v equals to 10 pi times r cube. Okay, we can find a constant already. So calculate the value of v when r is equals to 9. Okay, so when r is equals to 9, just sub in 9. Okay, so when r equals to 9, 10 pi times 9 cube should give me shit. Sorry, this one wrong. Key calculator key only. So this one, it's not this. 7.5 cube, not squared, is 421.87. You know what? I'm just gonna show the answer. Anyways, yeah, so this will be the answer. So in other words, you cube it, okay, because they say it's proportional to cube, yeah. Then k is equals to this, you divide accordingly and you get this. Okay, when r is 9, just sub in the value and then you get this. Okay, the answer should be in pi. So in other words, I don't want to see a weird decimal. Okay. Okay, next, in the figure below, the two vases are A and B and they are geometrically similar. What does this mean? It means that the ratios of similar triangles, similar whatever this is, vases are equal. Ratio of corresponding sides are equal, right? Ratio of corresponding sides are equal. So the height of the vases A and B are 10, 40 respectively. So this is 2 of 10. So right off the bat we can see 40 and 10, right? So it means there's a difference of times 4, right? So this one times 4 equals 40, right? So in other words, this one I'll divide by 4. Okay, so 12.5 divided by 4, I will have the base of it, I'm making of the base of A as 3.125. But you don't want to skip steps, okay? So I always want you to use the reasonings that they give. So in this case, they give you this, just divide by this. So you get 3.125. But in this case, I want to give you the reasoning, and the reasoning should be ratio of corresponding sides are equal. You have to give this. Okay? Ratio of corresponding sides are equal. Okay, it's very important. I'm not sure what the answer will give. Okay, so another one is another vase C has a base of 20 cm and height of 75. Okay, is vase C similar to vase B? Okay, to test for similarity, we have to test for what? Ratio of corresponding sides. So we can use the congruent. No, it's not congruent. Sorry, it is the inverse. The inverse of corresponding sides. Sorry, not the inverse, the converse. The converse of corresponding sides are equal, right? So 20 and 75, right? Let's find the ratio, okay? 75 divided by 40 and 20 divided by 12.5. Okay. Let's find 75 divided by 40. Okay, 20 divided by 12.5. They are not the same, right? So by the converse of, not inverse, inverse is for tokaso, okay, sine, cosine, tangent. By the converse of ratios of corresponding sides are equal, they are not similar. Okay, they are not equal. Okay, not inverse, converse. Okay, next. Just circle lah. Okay. The volume of hemisphere is V equals to, what's hemisphere? Hemisphere is basically a half ball. It's a ball. Okay, it's basically a ball, but it's half. Okay, to find express R as the subject of the formula. What do? You bring everything over, then cube root it, right? So the answer would be this. Yeah, you bring everything over, so you divide everything, okay, just like that. Okay, so when you divide, you have to flip it around, right? Divide, you have to flip this around, so it becomes times. To make it into times, you have to flip this part around, flip it, so it becomes 3 over 2. Okay, pi is basically just pi over 1, right? So you flip it around, becomes 1 over pi. So the pi is at the bottom. Okay, and then r cube, you cube root everything. You can just combine this v first. Okay, then you cube everything. Cube r. Make sure you put a 3 here, not 2. Okay. Hence, find the value of r when v is equals to 1152 pi. Okay, so you just sub in the value. You just sub in. Okay, you sub in v 1152 pi over here, so it becomes like that. Okay, 12. Okay, usually you will get a very nice number. Okay, and to check, right, what do you do to check? You get r equals 12, right? What do you do? Sub it back here lah. R equals 12. See, you get 1152 pi. Okay, let's move on. Factorize the following expression. Show your answer clearly. Okay. Okay, it doesn't really matter the order. Okay, so in other words, you can bring this negative 35ab to the back and 15b, leave it. Okay, then put a negative 9x to the front. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, but as long as you can factorize, can already. Okay, so two different methods. Okay, you can just factorize it like that. It's much more easier. Okay, fewer careless mistakes. Okay, 21ab and negative 35ab. Right, common factors is 21 35 common factor is 7, right? So you can factorize the 7 out, okay? Because 3 times 7 equals 21. 7 times 5 equals 35. Okay, so you can factorize the a out because a is also a common factor. Okay, factorize this part out. Okay, for this one, how do you factorize? 9 and 15. What's common factor? Will be 3, right? 3, right? So you can factorize the 3 out. Factorize the 3 out here, so it becomes this one becomes 3, and this one becomes 5. Okay, there's no algebraic terms that you can factorize out, so you can just leave it. Okay, and then when you factorize this one becomes 3x minus 5b. 3x minus 5b. Okay, so this one negative 9x, right? You have to factorize the negative out. So in other words, I want to see a negative 3 bracket 3x minus 5b. Okay, I'll explain over here. Okay, so take a look. What they did was just factorize this. Okay, factorize, taking out. But taking out the 3 is not enough. You must take out negative, because why? You see this one and this one, right? Are they equal? They are not, because this one is 3x, this one is negative 3x. How do you make this and this equal? So you remove the negative here, the plus becomes a minus, minus becomes plus. So you have to take out a negative here. So it becomes like that. Factorize out the negative. So then this one becomes this one becomes positive, and this one becomes negative. How do you check? Okay, take a look. You multiply this one inside, it becomes negative 3x, right? Multiply this one inside, becomes 15b, right? You multiply this one inside, so it becomes negative 9x. Multiply this one inside here, becomes positive 15b, because negative times negative is positive. Okay, and negative times positive over here is negative. So if it corresponds, means the answer is correct. So you notice that this and this, they are the same, right? Same. Everything in the brackets are the same, exactly the same. Now you can combine them together. So 7a minus 3 will be equal to this, and your answer mark will be given to the combination. Or you can just shift it around. You can shift it around. It works too. Okay. Yeah, now taking out common factor, you must take out a negative number. Okay, let's go back to the next question. 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. This one is just doing the cross table method, right? Let's try to draw the cross table method. I'm not very good at drawing. Okay, so this one will be 2x. Okay, and then this one will be x. Okay, then let's test out. Okay, it only can be 2x and x, right? Then here this one I put a 5. Does it work? And 3. Does it work? Yes, right? So this one is 3x, and this one is 10x. Okay, so I put there's a negative here, right? Because negative 15, so it means either 3 or 5 must have a negative. Cannot both have negative. If both have negative, it becomes negative 3 and negative 5, which is positive 15, but in this case it's negative 15, so it's either 3 or 5 and negative. If I put a negative at 5, this will give me negative 10. Negative 10 minus 10x plus 3x will give you negative 7x. Is my answer correct? Do I want negative 7x? Yes. The question here asks for negative 7x. So in other words, I just put 2 brackets around this, and then put a plus since there's no sign here. Put 2 brackets around this, and this will be my answer. Okay, so my answer here, I want to just write out 2x plus 3 times x minus 5. So this will be the answer. Okay, it doesn't matter the order. Okay, this is a cross table method. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Oh my god, it's 20 minutes before New Year's I'm doing this. Let's expand this. How do you expand this? By using a minus b whole thing squared. Right, a minus b whole thing squared. So what do you do? First of all, here will be 2x whole thing squared, right? So 2x squared will become 4x. 4 x squared. Okay. Okay. 4x squared minus, what is this? 2ab, right? So 2 times 2x, okay, times, what is that? 4z, right? You do not include a negative inside the 4z. Okay, so this will give you what? Negative, so 2 times 8, so this can give you what? Negative 16, right? Yeah, negative 16 x z. Okay, the next will be negative 4z squared, so negative 4z squared. I'm gonna pause this. So you get 16z squared. Okay, this will be the answer. Okay, hence given blah blah blah, blah plus this blah blah blah, find the value of this. So let's expand it out. I'll write it out. Okay, so this is the expanded one. Because they use hence, right, you must use the answer in part A, so you must use the expanded version. Okay, so when you expand it, it becomes like that. So you notice how there's an x squared plus 4z squared, right? So means you see this x squared plus 4z squared, and you see x squared z squared. What's the difference? Here times what? Times 4. Okay, over here also what? Times 4. Okay, so in other words, I just over here was times 4 also lah. 12 times 4 12 times 4 is what? 48, right? Okay, and then xz is what? 7. Okay, so how many xz are there? There's negative 16 xz, right? So negative 16 times times what? 7. This will give me whatever the answer is lah. Yeah, so like that. Okay. Negative 64. Answer should be negative 64. Okay, let's move on. Factorize the expression, blah 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 blah. How do you factorize it? Okay, I'm going to draw the cost table. Okay, so negative x here, right? Okay, negative x. Okay, so over here is 10, right? So 10, I only can separate into 10 and 1 and 5 and 3. Usually we split them equally. So instead of 10 and 1, which is not very equal even, right? We put 5 and 3. So now let's decide 5 and 3, which one get that negative on x. Okay, so in this case, this one becomes 5x times 3x, right? So they want what? No, not 3. 5 and 2. 5 and 2, sorry. 5 and 2. Paise. Okay. 5 and 2. 2x. So how do you make 3x? I want 3x. It's my goal, right? I don't have to make a negative here, right? So my negative should be over here. Can. Okay, so factorize, yeah. Negative. Okay, I'm gonna. Yay, so we got it already. So this will be my answer, okay? Find the value of y when x equals to 0 for the equation blah 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 blah. Find the value of y. So when you make x 0, so y should be equals to 10. So when you make this 0, it's just nothing. 3 times 0 is just nothing, so it becomes 10. So y equals 10. State the roots of the graph. Roots means what? Roots basically just means solution, okay? I'm just write it down. Roots means solution. Okay, what does solution mean? Okay, the intersect. Okay, let me draw it out. So this is how the graph looks like. This is x-axis, right? So over here, these are the solutions. Sorry, whatever. Okay, these intersects. The points that cut the x-axis are the solutions, and the solution is in terms of x. Okay, so which x coordinate is this and which x coordinate is this? Okay, you're trying to find out, right? So in order to find the x coordinate, notice that when everything cuts the x-axis, y is equals to 0. Why? Because this is the origin, right? And this is level 0 from the y, right? You're looking up here, right? This is level 0. So when y is equals to 0, okay, you just make y equals to 0 lah. So in other words, you make this y over here, means over here equals to 0. So when you make it into 0, so in other words, over here, right? Since this and this, they are both the same thing. They will just factorize, okay? Make it into 0, okay? Make it to 0. So negative x plus 5. I'll write it out, okay? Okay. Negative x plus 5 is also equals to 0. And x plus 2 equals to 0. Not n, sorry, or. Okay? So in other words, x can be negative 2 or x can be 5. Okay, so already the y-axis should be over somewhere. The y-axis should be somewhere, not there. The y-axis should be somewhere here. Okay, so this is negative 2, this is 5. Okay, so the roots to the graph is -2. If I just remember roots, right, is basically what's roots? Roots are basically the things in the plants, right? The very base of the plant, right? So for it to be roots means it must be at the base of the graph. Okay, state the y-intercept of the graph. Y equals to what? The y-intercept is what? 10. Okay, 10. Okay, great. We're on to paper 2. Okay, I'll try to limit my writing because it's taking too much time. Okay, simplify all of this, hence evaluate this. Okay, so hence means you must use a. Okay, just simplify first. I just expand. So a plus b, a minus b. So in other words, just this is just a squared minus 4, right? Okay, evaluate this. So let's take a look. Since there's a times here, right, and I'm trying to match it here, right? This is also equals to times, right? Okay. So in other words, I'm trying to match it. Okay, so take a look. 40, right? If a is equals to 40, okay, if a is equals to 40, 40, a equals to 40, okay. 40 plus 2 equals 42, so 42, okay. 40 minus 2 is 38. So 38 minus times 42 is what? It's basically a squared minus 4. Okay, what is your a squared? Your a squared is, a is what? A is 40, right? So it will be 1600 minus 4. So what is that? Just use calculator, or 1596, okay. Simplify this and evaluate this. Same thing, okay. Just expand it. Okay, over here, let's take a look. Yeah, this. So what I do was I expand it, becomes x squared minus 4x. How those cannot read. X squared minus 4x plus 4, so this will give you 78 squared. So just know that 78 squared is basically x minus 2, right? So in other words, x is 80. Okay, so 80, you sum in 80 here, sum in 80 here, sum in then minus 4. Okay, like that. Okay, use everything here. Okay, then you use calculator to evaluate this number. If this is too confusing, just drop me in the comments. Okay, let's take a look at this question. Okay, we need some time to go through it. Okay, a is directly proportional to b, so in other words, I can write a or b equals to k b. Okay, inversely proportional to the square of c, so in other words, it's equals to k times 1 over 1 over c squared. Okay, such that this a equals to this. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just write that p. You cancel this part away, so it becomes like that. Okay, so where k is a constant, when a equals to this, you just find k. So in other words, just sub in the value lah. When a is equals to this, c is equals to this, b is equals to this, sub in lah. So I should be seeing 3/4. I'm not wrong. No, 12, sorry. C wrongly. 12. K is equals to 12. Okay, b when a equals to 4 and c equals to -2. Just sub in the value, okay? It's not that difficult. Just sub in the value. The answer should be 4/3. Okay, let's move on. Expand and simplify the following. Expand, just do the rainbow method. This times this times this. Okay, then you simplify. So let's take a look at the answer. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So expand already, right? So it becomes like that. This one usually is 1 mark. This one garners you 1 mark. Okay, then you simplify. So basically x and x come together, so it becomes plus x. So yeah, it becomes negative ax minus 2. Minus 2 stays the same, and x squared remains the same. So you only gather the x terms. Okay, next question will be to expand this. Okay, expand this. How do you expand? Open up, so it becomes 7 squared plus 2x plus minus 5x, because 5 times negative x, then 5 times 5 is 25. So you expand, minus 3x plus 5. Okay, can we get this? If you can, just drop in the comments below. I mean, if you can't, just drop in the comments below. Okay, next question. This is a trapezium with height of 6 cm. Okay, take a look at this graph. This shape. Okay, AB is equals to x over 2 and DC is equals to 2x plus 5. Find the area of the trapezium ABCD in terms of x. ABCD. How do you find the area of trapezium? It's basically half. Okay, times what? Times the sum of parallel lines. So in this case, it's just x over 2 plus 2x plus 5. Okay, times what? Times 6. Why times 6? Because it's the height. So half times the sum of parallel lines, because these lines and these lines are parallel, right? Because every trapezium has parallel line, okay? Has a pair of parallel lines. So this plus this times 6, which is the height, okay? So you can just simplify it as, okay? Just basic algebraic simplification over here, okay? So yeah, so you just times this, 6 divided by 2 is just 3, and then half, right? Half you can simplify inside within here, okay? Can you get it? Yeah, we can just write it in this format, okay? They're not very particular about this for Cambridge. Okay, let's move on. This is 2 marks. Actually, this one I'm pretty sure it deserves at least a 3 mark lah. Yeah, it deserves at least a 3 mark, but I think they would, I don't know why they give it 2 marks, but at least deserves at least a 3 mark. I mean, Cambridge I think will give 3 marks for this question, okay? A man standing at a distance, sorry for the very blurry image, because this is quite long ago, from like 2016. I just pulled it up from like online or something, okay? A man is standing at a distance of 2.5 meters away from a lamppost with a height of this, where? 2.5, okay, so the man is standing here, this is the man, okay? The length of that man's shadow is 1.07 meters. Using concept of similar triangles, find the man's height correct to one decimal place. So in other words, they don't want you to use Togaso, they want you to use similar triangles. So this, which triangle is similar? This big triangle, I should use highlighter. This triangle and this no lah. Sorry, I say. No, not this triangle. It should be this triangle and this triangle. Okay, can. Yeah, something like that. Then now what do you do? This is 1.07. So in other words, by similar triangles, I only write up using similar triangles or by similar triangles. Remember to write that in O levels or Cambridge. Okay. Find the man's height. Okay. So in other words, this height and this height you leave it. So what I want to do now is the man's height. Let's let the main height be x. Okay. X over 6. Okay. Which is, this is the corresponding side, right? This and this is the corresponding side, right? Because the angle here is the same, okay? So it will be equals to, and this is both 190 degrees, 90 degrees. It's equals to over here, right? This side of the triangle. So the small one, which is x, right, over 1.07. Why did I put 1.07 at the top? Because the top must be the small triangle, which is the man's height and this small triangle length. And then 6, which will be this. 6 will be this, right? So this is small, big, small, big, right? So this is 107 plus 2.5. Wait, 1.07 plus 2.5 give you 3.75, 3.57. So x will be equals to, okay, just bring the 6 over. So times, 1.07 divided by 3.57 times 6. So does it make sense if the man is 1.79 meters? It does, right? So if it makes sense, means answer most likely, yeah. If you get like a 6 meters, it's most likely not it, okay? So yeah, you must round it out to do 2 dp or 1 dp, sorry. So 1.79 will be the rough work. Usually we'll leave it to 5 significant figures. So 1.7983, okay? Use second concepts of similar, yeah, okay, so that's about it, okay? Yeah, I'm not sure why they draw this second triangle. I feel like it's there to throw you off, but it's fine. Yeah, that's all. Let's move on. Oh my god, it's 5 more minutes to New Year's. Express A in terms of B. So in other words, I want you to make this subject, okay? So first thing first is to move it around, shift it like it's a game. Okay, first of all we got this, right? Bring the 4 minus A over, so times 4 minus A on both sides. So this one times 4 minus A, then you can remove the 4 minus A. So you bring this over here. Then after that, what you do, you simplify, you expand. So 4B, sorry, this is 4B, yeah, 4B, 4B minus AB, right? Minus AB, so this is 4B, sorry. This one is 4B, I don't know what the answer, right? 4A, 4B Okay, yeah, 4b minus 4b. Okay, so you put all the b on one side, then you got the a, right, because you want to make a subject formula, right? So you factorize the a out. Okay, make all the a terms, those terms that have a on one side. So you factorize the a out, then you get this. Then now you can bring this over. So it becomes 3 minus 4b over minus b minus 2. So it becomes like that. Get it? Okay. Express a in terms of c. Just do the same. Cube every both sides. Cube. Then minus 3 equals to minus a over 4. Okay, then you just simplify it, then you will get this. Okay, last question, part C. Express b in terms of c. So you of course have to sub it in. You have to do a bit of manipulation. Okay, so in other words, over here you got this and this already, right? What do you do? Since that both equals to a, right, you can just equate this and equate this together. So you can just sub in like that, or you can just equate. Okay, and then question D, find the value of P when C equals to 2, just sub in the value. So over here sub in C equals to 2, C equals to 2, then you will get your this value. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I'm gonna go celebrate New Year's, just hold on for a while. Okay, I'm back, 12:07, nice. So a wine barrel contains oh my god, fireworks is still popping outside. Okay, anyways, a wine barrel contains a wine barrel contains 240 liters of wine. A large tap and a small tap attached to the wine barrel. The tap pours water at x liters of wine per minute. Write down an expression in terms of x for number of minutes it takes. Okay, per minute. So 240 divided by x. Okay. Okay, these questions are very common. They come out for O levels. Yeah, O levels will come out. Okay, almost every single year. In fact, every single year. Okay. A large tap pours out x plus 2 liters of wine per minute. So write an expression. Again, this is just 1 mark. So it's 240 divided by x plus 2 per minute. Okay, it takes 10 minutes longer to empty the barrel using the small tap than the large tap. So in other words, I'm going to write out the equation. Okay, so in other words, x divided by 240. 240 divided by x. Okay, since this 240 is x is a small one, right? It takes 10 minutes longer to empty the barrel, right? So 10 minutes longer. So this one will be equals to 240, okay, divided by x plus 2. So you add the 10 minutes at the shorter one, right? 10 minutes. Okay, so how do you do it now? You simplify. Okay, so 250. So below here times 2 divided by x plus 2, right? So over here on top you have 2 times x plus 2. Okay, so basically you simplify everything, will give you x plus 2. Okay, so what is this? 10x plus 260 goes to 240 over over x. Okay, so you cross multiplication, so it's 240 plus x plus 480 will give you 10 x squared plus 260 x. Okay, I'll just go and check the answer. Okay, whatever this is, yeah, something like that. 40 220. Yep, it's correct. So just simplify. Then you have to do the cross table to factorize it. Okay. Happy New Year, guys, by the way. Then you solve it. So why is the answer indeed rejected? Because there's a negative answer. What's the negative answer? -8. -8 is rejected because the amount of water, which is the volume, cannot be negative. Because why is x? X is liters of water. It cannot be negative. How do you get -8 liters? Right. Okay. Find the time taken in minutes to empty the barrel using a small tap. Just sub in. So small tap will be divided by x, right? So it's why was my x? 8, right? Is it? Or 6. So 240 divided by 6 is just 40. Answer should be 40. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so this type of question, right, you really have to draw the graph out, and this, I'm telling you, okay, this graph is not very well drawn because you see this line, and assuming there's a point here, right, it's a bit like not well balanced. You see there's a bit of a hump up here, you see. Then this is not even nice. It should be like something like along the lines of here lah. Okay, so this part over here should be slightly over here. So it's not very well drawn, and then here is not very nice. So what I advise you to do is to use a mechanical pencil. Okay, those who don't have curve ruler, it's fine. Okay, when I did my O levels, I didn't really use a curve ruler. Okay, what I did was I just used a mechanical pencil. Just imagine this cursor is a mechanical pencil. Okay, I just start tracing, because when you trace, your lines tend to be much straighter. Okay, so if there's a point here, okay, I'll trace. Okay, trace. I'll just like shade. So back and forth, but gently with your mechanical pencil. Then shade, then outside just start to shade lines, okay. Then shade. Okay, if you really need, okay, because the question did not really give you points in between, because -1, right, it's better to plot points in between, right? But there's no point between like -1 or like what's, yeah, or this 0. Yeah, you know what I mean. There's no points between here, right? So it's a very big jump. Big jump means what? Less accurate. So I'll just, instead of putting an X plot, because the question never say ask you to plot, right? So you cannot put X plot. What I'll do is just put a small little dot to let me know that the line will pass through that area. Okay, you cannot put X. If you put X, means it's wrong, because the question never asks you to plot that plot. Okay, so you just draw a line, draw here, draw all the way. Then over here, right, just have to like curve it a little bit, curve it. I mean, after many practices, you will understand and how the curve supposed to look like. Okay, just curve. Okay, curve. For your syllabus in Sec 2, you will only be asked to draw quadratic, which is just like that, or the smiley face one. Okay, so down, up, like that. Okay, down. Okay, and then always remember to label it. Okay, and also label a points if you want. Okay, it's not really important. Okay, then after when you draw it already, then what's the roots? Roots is the solution, right? So in other words, where does it cut x-axis? Cuts x-axis somewhere here. Yeah, cuts x-axis here. This is the root. Okay, you only can read it to half the smallest square. Okay, you cannot read it to a quarter. Okay, and this should be the answer. Okay, if you want to draw it. Okay, then I'll give you the answer. Yeah, never give answer. Never mind. Next video I'll be doing a more if there's time. So that's all for this video. I hope this video really helps you. Okay, thank you.